So with that, I'm going to introduce Nou Her Yia Lee, who are amazing alumni committee members and also former Soul Vang scholars, so recipient of the Soul Vang Scholarship, and wonderful, fabulous writers in their own right. So please join me in welcoming first Nou and then Yia, and they'll be introducing our readers this evening. So please join me in welcoming Nou.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Nou and I graduated from Fresno State's MFA program back in 2020, and I'm also a member of the Creative Writing Alumni Chapter. So it's an honor to be here today to introduce our student scholars, past and present of the Soul Vang Scholarship. Soul was actually a very pivotal point in my own pursuit of the MFA. He attended one of the readings I was reading at, and sort of just in passing, he was like, you should continue to write. And I am here today still. So this evening, thank you for joining us as we celebrate, commemorate, and witness three amazing writers at various stages of their writing career. Our first reader of the evening is Kaylee Ruiz. Kaylee is an undergraduate at Fresno State, majoring in English Studies and Asian American Studies. Her academic and creative work explores the ambiguity of adulthood and seeks to amplify Asian voices and explore the diverse narrative and identities within the Asian American community. She is a 2024 Soul Vang Scholar. Kaylee's writing does not shy away from exploring hard and complex topics such as racism or sexism. Through exploration of everyday happenings, she is able to illuminate the intersections of who we are, the multiple identities we hold within us, and the unintentional and subconscious consequences of those identities. Our life experiences constantly teach us, enforces, and subverts our understanding of who we are, both as an individual and as members of a larger community. I'm not sure, Kaylee, if you have plans to pursue an MFA, but I know the pursuit to explore and amplify diverse narratives and identity is a lifelong journey, and I know it will, for no doubt, bring you many emotions in your explorations. Please join me in welcoming Kaylee.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kaylee Ruiz, and I'm honored to be here today. I'll be reading two of my poems, one of which is The Soul Land of the Free. It was the Marita Barraza Martinez Creative Writing Prize winner. And I'll also be reading Asian American Pacific Islander, which was the Soul Vang Creative Writing Prize winner. And I'll be sharing some insights into the meaning and inspiration that came from me writing it. And both poems are deeply personal, but also reflect broader issues of cultural identity and the ongoing struggle for justice. So I'll share the first one with you, The Soul Land of the Free. The bell rings and it's time for recess. The kids all pour out of their classrooms, eager to steal a spot on the slide or snatch a deserted swing. Innocence is something that children aren't deprived of. The lonely little beings would have no idea how the world is wired or how ruthless society would be to them. At age 5, I worried about my toy Barbie being stolen. They all wanted something new, something shiny, something valuable. At age 20, I worry about the dissipation of my culture as it's torn from the hands of many and plastered across billboard signs and worn on runways. They all want something authentic, something trendy, something different. The word stolen is crossed out in the title because it does represent something significant. When we think of the phrase, the land of the free, it's often spoken with a kind of patriotic pride, but we rarely acknowledge the origins of this land. It wasn't free for the people who were here before colonization, namely Native Americans, and this poem was written to bring more attention to that. I did write from my own cultural standpoint because I wanted to reflect on the constant fear that I have of erasure. The playground in the poem symbolizes innocence, something that we often associate with childhood, but as we grow older and start to leave that playground, we start to realize how society steals more than just toys. It steals identities, cultures, and histories. For me, the personal reflection comes into how we see our own cultures being commodified today, especially in the media. At age 21 now, I'm not worried about losing something as simple as a toy. I'm worried about losing something as fundamental as my cultural identity, and which is often exploited or diluted again in the media or in trends. And my culture becomes something that others want when it's convenient, but only on a superficial level without truly understanding the depth, the struggles, or the history that comes from it. And this poem serves as a reminder to reclaim what has been taken and to honor the stories that aren't as told as often as they should be. So my next poem, Asian American Pacific Islander, was written from a different emotional space. This one came from a place of anger. The Stolen Land of the Free deals with the broader history of cultural erasure, but this one has a lot of anger towards the hypocrisy, the racism that go hand in hand with cultural appropriation, so I'll go ahead and share that with you all. It's in the way you eat our food, wear our clothes, and buy our products, but still wear racism as your badge of honor as if it's something to be proud of. It makes it difficult to tell if the hero is a villain or distinguish a friend from a foe. It's like wading deep into the ocean where the water is dark enough where you don't even see the sharks coming. This poem, again, came from a place of anger, but also a place of frustration and exhaustion. As a member of the Asian American community, I've seen how elements of my culture are cherry-picked and celebrated, but at the same time, our people are constantly marginalized and treated as outsiders. This poem speaks to the contradiction that I've often witnessed, how people can embrace Asian culture superficially through our food, clothes, and also products, while simultaneously holding on to racist ideas and behaviors. It's almost as if cultural appropriation becomes a form of consumption, but without understanding the empathy for the struggles that we face. In the second stanza, I do talk about how it's difficult to tell if the hero is a villain or distinguish a friend from a foe, and this reflects the confusing dynamic of people who claim to support you, but also perpetuate the racist ideas and stereotypes that are harmful to our community. The final image of wading into dark waters where you can't see the sharks coming is meant to symbolize the hidden dangers of cultural appropriation. It's not always obvious when you're being taken advantage of, and by the time you realize it, it's often too late. By the time you realize that it's happening, the damage is done, your identity, your history has already been swallowed whole. And this poem, like the first one, is about reclamation, reclaiming the narrative of who we are, not just in terms of what we see on the surface, but in a deeper sense of identity, struggle, and pride. So both of these poems are deeply personal to me, but they also reflect the broader experiences of many marginalized communities, whether it's the history of Native Americans or the cultural appropriation of Asians or Asian Americans. We see a consistent pattern still, people taking what is valuable, often without acknowledgement or respect, and leaving behind the painful realities that come with our history. Through my poetry, I hope to challenge the idea of passive consumption of culture and to encourage people to think more deeply about what it means to truly appreciate and respect the identities of others. And ultimately, my work is about reclaiming this space and giving a voice in a world that too often silences or distorts our stories. Thank you.
Reader of the evening is Phoua Lee. Phoua Lee is a Hmong American writer from California. Her work has been published in Asian American Writers Workshop, Control+V, Diacritics, and Poets.org, among others. She studies fiction in a Fresno State MFA program and serves as the president of the Hmong American Ink and Story Student Organization. She is a 2023 Soul Vang Scholar. Phoua's writing is bold and unapologetic. Where some may opt for euphemisms to describe violence, death, etc., Phoua's words on the page maintain a straightforwardness that balances both the physical realities of life and our metaphorical re-renderings. Her Hmong American heritage is at times explicit in her work, or other times just a quiet backdrop. With her depth and continued growth as a writer in the MFA, I am excited for her future hereafter. Please join me in welcoming Phoua Lee.
Thank you for the amazing intro, Nou, and this is the first time I'll be reading on a phone, so I'm not used to it. Prior to this, I always printed out my poems, and then a lot of people laughed at me for carrying papers everywhere I go, so now I'm trying to change that up. But I noticed there were kids running around the building earlier, and so I edited these poems, and now you're getting like the PBS Kids version of these poems. But the diligence is still there, and so I want to honor that. And also, it's truly an honor to be reading alongside Soul Vang tonight. I know I've looked up to him for a long time, and this is like my first time meeting him too, and so it's just been really surreal tonight, and I'm really appreciative of the opportunity and privilege. And so this first poem I'll be reading is titled Tiger Bite, and it won the Soul Vang Prize for Poetry. Familial generations of shaman blood chanting the vein alive, even when tiger spirits snipped ancestors like fresh stems, my family survived lining finger grooves with superstition. The tiger's teeth do not know us, but we know my mother ripped out her ghost to feed her family, abandoning her war trauma to the scarlet sea inside her viscera, but not undoing the nurturer in her. She asks me if I need quarters, and when I say no, secretly cramps them in my wallet, and I don't find them until days later when the weight of them kisses my hand. Her spiritual knowing as sharp as the silvered line between two pressed palms. Fingers in the tiger's mouth, the one in the garden of my childhood that she sang away with her filigreed tears. Because motherhood is eating your fare in prevention of its devouring your children. I hated my hunger, how it could make me tiger-like, but how do I say it? That the keyhole of my hunger is not of me, but of my mother who is still somewhere foraging in her motherland under aircraft thunder for the tiger released from her breast, so that her hands become a hindsight. She sought the tiger aware of its ignorance and her wit. Do not mistake her for a bug trapped in a barrel chamber, unless referring to her firepower. She taught me at age 3 the word for tiger, but not how to recognize one. My sight defined, dissolved into ichor. I finger paint the crumble of my being, my rock lightning tooth. Finger paint my father leaving his shadow behind, his brother's shadow running to catch up, and they meet in a space undefinable, because there is no space for war-torn brothers to meet without the language lost in a rumble of warfare of slinking tigers. My father, his index finger severed, living without that extra inch of flesh, but amplified in his becoming, the minutes, the distance, the closing of his wound becoming a timeline, the weight of an engine hum, his motor oil fingers, searching for light to scaze, because any good light would bend to his ministrations, to his handcraft crossbow at the ready, pointed to the tiger, and he stares so long, he inhabits the voice of water. Now flooding the corners of the space where he met my mother, her searching for the tiger and him hunting it, and they together entwined so bright, I can hear it from a country over. This next poem is titled I Gorge, I Genitalia, and it won the Mia Barazza Martinez Prize for social justice writing. I'm very proud to say that I wrote this poem while in Brynn's class for Form and Theory for Poetry, and so it's kind of representative of this marathon poem form that I created, and it's kind of become a running gag for me to mention it every now and then in class to kind of persuade my classmates to write the same marathon poem, but without further ado, let's get melancholic over finger sandwiches. Me and my girls hold a picnic over the river Styx. Welcome back our loved ones who've ever left. Want boba? Want nava? We know you're tired, honey. Here's a fuzzy blanket. Here's some sweet tea. So happy to see you, I could cry the ugly type. Shh, there will be time later for everything you want to say. We girls are aromatic. We throw sleepovers in canoes and play hopscotch with lions. We don't know the limits of love because we all failed calculus. On our blood leaf island, we grow new mothers and fathers who love us unconditionally and can apologize and can say we love that you love limitlessly and can say it's okay if today is too hard and tuck us to sleep. We are 10 again and chasing after ice cream trucks in rundown neighborhoods with mean dogs and meaner kids who poke at the flags on our bellies. On our Bloodleaf Island, we pull Mally from the shore, siren haunted, sister enameled, and blind. Newly revived, she recounts what she last saw after a homophobic man pulled out a knife on her walk home after visiting us in our little bungalow for dinner. Bloodshot ghosts walking the tripwires, flower drugs and microdoses, the most magnificent dream in which she kisses an astronaut girl who is leaving Earth forever. Caskets splitting the highway. But most of all, she says, I felt only love for the world, that it could know jubilant me and still let me go. And I was sorry to go. Pixie believes in the default anchor of the universe, which kind of sounds like Murphy's Law, but doesn't. Me and my girls tiptoe in wineries run by rabbits, learn to blossom cute like guitar fish, learn how to drink wine so we get all the right tangs, which is to say we participate in happier living and possibilities. Girls got a lot to give, grieving gambles to shut the gobbler, only a gambit away but gone in the gentle garage. Gardening geese giants, our fists grow galactic, grabbing ginger root, gypsophilia gravitates toward glamorous me, gracious grasshoppers generating goldish luck, kinfolk galore, grapefruit glitterati on our Bloodleaf Island, galloping grasslands, grenadine evenings crest our heads, and ginseng ghosts abound. Gnarled for the gunshot that gophers our chest, I did greed, I guilt, I gorge, I genitalia. When Dad tries to build a new me out of junkyard car parts, my girls steal me from my bedroom window. We divine ourselves into electric eels in the back of a flower market. Feathering footlights and lovers who come knocking for trouble, that's what Valkyrie's got going for her. We frame the best light and keep it close, ooh and ah over our best angles, perform death scenes. The saddest part is we used to practice our goodbyes, but here we're working through existing. I mask my face in one too many suns, sob into pristine hands. My girls hold me close and make me warm rice. We spend the day gathering berries off the coast and discuss the mail that will soon come to us. Postcards from family, confession letters from bygone lovers, buttons, Polaroids, friendship bracelets, seed packets, ribbons, cross-stitch, last night's dream, a map to nowhere, and much love. On the wrong night, my mother visits me and we sit together to discuss feelings, although we are very silent, so we act out our words instead. She throws a mug, I fly over the meadowscape, unforgiven. We recount every parallel self and we feel emotions HD sharpen every one of them. Shaiku, shaiku, like this I am fatality frequency, like this I am tornado theatrics, calculating traces of treason. In my lifetime I am trainee of catastrophe. Back home I cleave clovers for my kinfolk. 14 fleeting funerals later we peer into soup bowls for promises of sap. I've got a hotel heart. I'd house any stranger if they were to simply look my way. Think homoerotic scene in which I eye a girl across the blue pool's larger surface. I thunderstruck every slur only as palpable as the person who made them, which is not much. Me and my girls were hibiscus fledglings, testing the edge of all things forgiving and always ready for a fight and always fiercer in revelation. In this next poem, this next poem is titled POV Asian Girl Vendetta, Number Infinity, and it won the Ernesto Trejo Poetry Prize. There's a muzzle pointed at them like the end of a long ship deck. And when the girls go down, because a man demands they do by the power of his finger around the trigger, they do not think of gravity. They think, what are we leaving behind? They think, will the world only know of us by what's left on our bodies, blood and metal, and speak of us in ghost tints? In this crying weather, shame for shoes, meek woman worries, lasso two moon cheeks for the chipper cricket, for the yellow skin of dumplings, for chili oil vengeance. Let loose cornucopia, let loose trouble, let loose molten chimera, let loose fire, grimmer than the spark that made it. It's girl naivety to assume safety, but Asian girls are another breed. An older man asks me if I'm Dragon Lady or Lotus Blossom, and I scream human. Recognize it, stroke yourself to it. One's humanity, or rather the denial of it, has always been a kink to you. I rethink shoulder touches, shiver at strangers, the hurt one human being can do to another, black and white CCTV footage, and this wouldn't have happened if you had a boyfriend. I am also eternally paranoid and Tyrannosaurus jittery. The day after the Spall shootings, I reimagine reincarnation as 1,000 pupae. I peel oranges, I taste bitter, I recalibrate home. I lay down my head, I chart wounds on my bedroom wall. I was ashamed of my shame. My best friend in copper wires, Asians get stitches, I choke like earth water. They have her in cuffs. Our captors joke about losing streaks. My body trusted not to open a door of circuitry. I flaunt one mouth to wield the grief of mothers in this nation that keeps pretending to win by losing. Captor Sinu pulls, bubblegum thin head pops in a pinstripe suit. He teaches me all the ways I'm guilty for my body. On the third day, my index finger won't stop shaking. I click in article after article. I fret the spares, locate motives, pinpoint the murder curve, no overlaps, no gaps, patchwork the coming manhunt. After a man declares my genes are geared for patriarchy, I feel like vomiting. I collect my pubic hair, become all too aware of my body and what comes out. I want to control what I lose. Consider transformation into carp. Consider mirroring smiles into the next dimension. The next time a man touches my hair and calls the Asian straight, I want to carve heliospheres into every unassuming cheek. Lay my mark just to make sure these arms are my arms, these legs, my legs, this anger, my anger. I've never been quick on purpose. I opt for draggy pronunciations, slow living, but the trick to spotting a red sprite is speed. The trick to spotting an ill-attentioned man is in his eyes. Throwing pebbles behind my heels, searching for mom who had gone out for a lemon, I am suspicious of an unnamed man laying his hands on her. It's a myth I have all the fortune I could ever need in the snake pit of my palm. The story goes I offer an arm to mom. We fight back gibbons, catapult raw eggs, and decide the raw eggs aren't enough, so she detaches her foot and has the whole world carouseling, and because she has no foot, I carry her. We run. The gibbons decide they aren't man enough. They morph into silhouettes with cutlasses. I bleed out of every hole, every truth I'd ever swallowed, geysering into a formation of some kind, ready to feast and fester. Mom teaches me the magic behind hurdles. I ask her how she survived in this world, but there's no formula for that. She collapses from my arms in pixels. I dig at ground, curse the bystander hermit. In our final act, we bow into crescent-folded napkins. Take off by air, something resembling birds and nothing at all like it. Limb hunting tiger man, what's the secret to evolving past fear? We make promises for invisibility, return missed phone calls, light salt and no butter. Never step out alone, pretend to read a book on the train. Watching videos of elderly Asian women pushed into streets during COVID. I buy puffier jackets for my mom. I cut fruit and tell her not to make eye contact. Tell her to come home earlier, wait for her at the door. Suddenly, she is the child in the yellow bus, and I am every iteration of worry. Thank you.
Wow, that was so beautiful and intense. Thank you so much. I also like to thank Kaylee for reading earlier her lovely poems as well. And I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your presence here. I have the pleasure of introducing Soul Vang, author of Song of the Cluster Bomblets. Years ago, I met Soul in workshops with the Hmong American Circles, Hmong American Writers Circle. And it is wonderful to read some of the poems in here and remember how we discussed them in workshops. We underlined words, we spoke into the late hours of the night, not knowing yet that the poems would make their way into a book years later, although maybe Soul always knew they would get published, right? Soul, you always knew. It is a pleasure to see how Soul has kept his poetry alive throughout the years, to see how he has kept the lines tender and vivid and sometimes sharp enough to hit you with a force and passion so intense it takes your breath away. In Song of the Cluster Bomblet, Soul Vang is a father, a lover, a friend, an uncle, and he is also in between. In the poem Wishes, he says, I cannot take life straight. I was born in another land and then plucked by an iron eagle and dropped on this new shore. There are no roads in front of me, no bridges behind me. Soul Vang revisits what he calls a meandering life, exploring memories and landscapes and people from Sky Mountain to Hawaii, to Germany, to Fresno. In the poems The Sling, he talks about the heritage and history he carries and how he carries his children through the landscape of the Central Valley. He ends the poem with the line, I carry on. And I am so glad that Soul has carried on, publishing his second book of poetry 10 years after his first book, To Live Here. I have that one too. Soul Vang is a true pioneer of Hmong American literature. I look up to him so much. Thank you, Soul, for the path you have traveled, the in-betweenness you have had to navigate. He continues to be an inspiration to the Hmong community. Thank you, Soul, for your faith, for keeping on writing, for your generosity to the Hmong writing community. I am very happy and proud to welcome Soul Vang as the keynote speaker tonight.
I'm getting emotional already. Thank you to the English department and to the Alumni Association. And thank you to all of you for coming here tonight to share the students' work and my work. So I was born in Laos, and we immigrated to Hawaii after the war in 1976. And then we lived there for 3.5 years, and then we moved to California. And then I went and joined the Army. And after the Army, I came back, and then I attended Fresno State College, and then came to Fresno State. So in 1996, that's 30 years ago, I stumbled into a poetry class with Dr. Charles Hansley Jack, and then I started writing some poems, and they're very, very simple poems about my life and my experiences, and comparing them to these I would call third-generation writers. That's very humble beginnings. So I'm so humble and I'm so proud of these brothers and sisters, or I could probably sons and daughters, who are writing today. And so, beginning in 1996 to 2006, I was the only writer that I knew who was a Hmong writer. And then around 2006, Birdie Vang and Ying Tao and Andre Yang and those guys came along. They decided, why don't we get together and create a writing circle? So that's how the Hmong American Writers Circle began. So, and then we kind of workshop our poems and get together to encourage each other. Still writing very what my dad would call crappy poems. And then around 2014 or so, we started to make some progress. Birdie published his book, and then Minor started having some pieces accepted. And then she decided to go to Columbia and did her master's, and then after a couple of years they came back. So I think it was 2016, we went to a writers conference in LA. So we went to all these workshops and attend all these readings, and we were so motivated So we were riding back from LA on the freeway by the Grapevine. It was like me, Maido, Anthony Cody, Andre, and I think Ying. So we were talking about, we were so motivated by to write, but we were talking about how can we motivate other Hmong writers to start writing also. And so one of the ideas that we came up with was maybe we should establish a scholarship. But you know, it was kind of unusual because to establish a scholarship, you have to be very famous or be a very good writer, right? you have to have published some very great works, but we kind of went the non-traditional way. So we decided to just do it anyway. And as you can see by the effect of these new writers, they're so strong and so brave, and you know, I feel so proud of that. So I'm going to share some of my poems. And you can see the difference between mine and Park Ward. I wouldn't go there. I'm too, you know, my experience is too limited to compare to these younger writers. So this first poem is called The Last Sky, and it's about the fall of Longjiang in 1975. So if you keep up with the news, you probably saw like about 3 years ago when the Americans withdraw from Afghanistan, right? You guys see all these people scrambling into the airplanes, and the airplanes taking off, and people were falling left and right. And if you couldn't get the airplane, some were in danger of being captured or being shot. So this is very similar to the experience that the Hmong people experienced 50 years ago, in 1975. So when the Hmong army that supported the CIA, when the Americans withdrew, we had no choice but also to leave the country in any way possible. So this is about the last days of the evacuation, the last sky. The fall of Longjiang, Sky Base, 1975. 20,000 pairs of eyes scan the sky for signs of lifeboats. C-130s to rescue us from Clear Valley, our last fortress that has become our death trap. Enemy columns surround the hills. Enemy tanks blockade the roads, slowly moving in to kill. Finally, 3 American C-130s arrive like a wing of birds. 3 bright eagles landing, rolling in a line up the runway. The crowd parts and reforms like waves around ships at sea, scrambling into the cargo holds. Families try to stay together, but wives are separated from husbands, children from grandparents. The cargo holds quickly filled. The ramps start to rise. People fall in clumps to the hard tarmac. An infantry major grabs his oldest son, boosting him to the last gap of the closing ramp. The birds turn, roll down the sky-based runway for the last time, pick up speed, lift, and lumber into the last sky. So this next one is called The American. So when I was younger, in my 20s, I joined the U.S. Army, and I was stationed in Germany. And one of my very interesting experiences was we had these trips to the cemeteries of the American soldiers who died in World War II. So they had cemeteries all over Europe, like in France and Belgium and those places. So we had a chance to go and visit a cemetery of American soldiers in Belgium. And so we went in a tour bus, and then we stayed in a hotel, and then we had a chance to explore the town. And then the next morning we had a parade and then, a ceremony to honor the soldiers, and then we came back. So this poem is about that night that we had free, and I just walk around that little town and to explore and see what came up. And so this experience is about that. The American. In the quiet shades of the evening, a cool Atlantic wind blows, bringing a hint of salt, dispersing the long day of summer heat. I take a break from the marching boots and snap steps, shining like flashing mirrors, uniforms spit-shine with colors, gold, red, white, blue, paraded in a field of green, among perfect rows of white crosses, climbing the rolling hills, decorated with American flags. I stroll in the middle of a little Belgian town that has seen American GIs come on their yearly pilgrimage to salute of these holy hills and their comrades that had fallen in 2 world wars. I, however, out of uniform, must be something they don't quite expect in an American. Not Johnson blonde, Ronaldo black, or even Chavez brown. I can pass for a World War II Japanese. I could be a Chinese who has come to open a restaurant. Maybe even a Vietnamese refugee escaping by boat from his homeland to seek shelter here in Belgium. The old lady closing the door to her jewelry shop doesn't know what to make of me, but she greets me warmly in English and asks me where I'm from. The US, I answer. She pauses. Oh, you must be with the American soldiers. When I answer yes, she is happy. We were at the cemetery, she said. So she invites me in to a room in the back of the shop, hidden, a secret chamber for resistance fighters, spies, soldiers down behind enemy lines. I'm ushered to a heart surrounded by 3 old couples enjoying their memories, revived with a flickering fire, fresh cookies, and good coffee. They greet me with smiles and invite me to a seat in their circle. They have an American friend, they tell me, whom they visit yearly in Pennsylvania. Their friend had been a pilot, shot down, wounded, lost, and helpless, until rescued by these people who must have been young lovers then, filled with the juices of fighting for their lives. They welcome me, I think, as a brethren of the American friend. I accept the extended grace, the warmth of the fire. I don't mind when I think of my many American years, exploring strip malls, supermarkets, department stores, without ever seeing an American heart or tasting homemade apple pie. I tell them my American story of being born on Sky Mountain, fleeing across the Mekong, living in the refugee camp, coming to America, joining the US Army, and coming to Europe. this next poem is called the Shaman Poet. So in Hmong tradition, we have a shaman who has his powers, and so she or he usually have like some spirit guides who, when she wants to cross from this plane into the next, into the spirit world, she has to have those guides come and guide her to go there. I don't know how many guides there are. Does anyone know? Yeah, how many? No? Okay. I'm assuming there's like probably 4 or 5, or like a squad of soldiers, right? So when you become a shaman, you are inspired by these spirits, and you have to you can have an altar in your house for them, and they whenever you want to go. So when someone is sick, for example, they'll come and say, "Shaman, can you help me? Can you go into the spirit world and see what's wrong? Maybe my child's spirit was captured there and held hostage, so that he or she is sick. So can you go there and negotiate and maybe even fight to free the spirit to come back?" So that's what a shaman in the Hmong tradition is like. And also, I think, in a way, a poet is very similar to a shaman too, because when you write, we kind of traverse different places and times and even different planes of existence. So a shaman poet. The poet relies on his faith in the English words and calls words out of random air with an intuitive knowledge that the word he needs will scroll next on the page. He calls one to soothe, one to meditate, one to proclaim, one to challenge. The shaman sings chants long memorized and have become a part of him or her as she calls the spirit guides to aid his journey, to soothe and retrieve lost souls, negotiate with recalcitrant spirits, to battle evil demons. He calls one to guide, one to conduct etiquettes, one to be his shield, one to be his sword. How sad for the modern Hmong poet who has no shaman calling, and for the old Hmong shaman who can't master the new language. The poet, a successor who can inherit, the shaman, a master without apprentice. What a shaman poet would be like, singing old chants, creating new songs, calling spirits, negotiating, fighting demons, all anew in both English and Hmong. We can't only imagine. Okay, so this poem is kind of dating in a way. I was thinking, when I wrote this poem, I was thinking that the shaman tradition would probably die out. And in a way, it's true. Less and less people are doing it to be able to master the role of being a shaman. But nowadays, there are younger people who actually are adapting and changing and becoming shamans who speak in English and Hmong. And so they're changing the tradition. So we'll see what happens with the Hmong shamans in the future, which is an interesting story that we can write about in the future. So, all right. Okay. So I'm going to share some poems from my newer book. And this poem is Wishes, which Yia kind of talk about a little bit. And it was inspired by a line from a movie called The Master. The line is, "You can't take life straight, can you?" I keep wishing I was born 10 years earlier. Then I would have been a Hmong soldier, defending the last Hmong fortress of Nongjiang. I would have Master Pang Lu practicing courtship rituals, whispering with girls through thin bamboo walls. So Pang Lu is the Hmong poetic language. I keep wishing I was born 10 years later. Then I would be a full American, able to speak this direct, shifting American language with a musical accent. I would better communicate with my sophisticated, innocent children. I would better understand my wife, who became my spouse, and then my partner. I cannot take life straight. I was born in another land, then plucked by an iron eagle and dropped on this new shore. There were no roads in front of me, no bridges behind me. I had to take each small step and cut a new trail winding through the strange, vast land. So this one's called Forever. And so in the Hmong tradition, when you marry, when a man marries a woman, he would take her into his family, and so each Hmong family in the old tradition religion, you would have some guiding spirits that watch over the family and the clan. So if the woman marries a man, she has to go into his family or clan, and then her spirit that protect her left behind with her family. And so the groom's spirit that protect his family would take over the protection of her. So that's some things that are explored in this piece. So in a way, when she is married, she becomes the new family, and there's a monk saying that if she lives, she belongs to your family. If she dies, she belongs to your ghosts. So forever, even after death, she is forever in the family, which is scary, right? All right, so forever. So May is my wife, and this poem actually takes place in the Fresno State, right around this area. I met May the traditional way through her aunt, who had married into my clan. The first time I talked to her voice reminded me of the green mountains, of winds flowing through the tall elephant grass. We have spent all summer together, studying in the university library, walking the long grass malls, hunting Phoua Lee plovers, enjoying the rose gardens in full bloom. I'm taking you home, I tell May, as we leave our favorite restaurant after having our favorite dish, Pho Cao, for lunch. Sure, isn't that where we're going? She replies, distracted, thinking I'm taking her back to her apartment by the university. No, I mean taking you home. No, I mean I'm taking you home, our future home. Alarm, she replied. We've talked about this already. Let's wait 4 more months until I graduate with my BA. I think we should do it right now, I say stubbornly. In my heart, I fear that once she graduates, other suitors would rush in. After all, there's a Hmong proverb. Ilum blay mo pe lum bloa, itun sai mo pe tu loa. And another even more urgent proverb. As we're driving towards my house, a momentary doubt plays through me. Am I rushing things? No. Then there is no more time for doubts and questions. We are already nearing the house, and once we get there, my mother brings out a rooster to twirl 3 times around May's head, chasing away her ancestral protective spirits, placing it with our own. Now she is part of our family. Nhau là nhập in this life and forever after. Tô là nhập biết lắm. And then this last poem is called The Sling. So in the Hmong life, we have a cloth sling that we embroider very nice and fancy. And then when we need to carry a baby, we strap him or her on our back and go. So it's like a piece of cloth with 2 strings. The sling. With this embroidered cloth, my forebears carried all that was precious across the contested landscape of China, crossing the Yellow River, fleeing south. With these long sashes, my ancestors wrapped precious seeds tight against their backs, crossing the Red River into Vietnam, then Laos. With this planya, my great-grandparents enfolded and protected their children from tigers and spirits, crossing the Dragon River, blazing new fields. With this baby sling, my parents shielded my siblings and me, seeking shelter across the land at war, crossing the Mekong River for Thailand, then beyond. Now, with this heirloom, I carry my daughters and sons up the volcanic slopes of Hawaii, across the rugged rocks of the Central Coast, among the Sierra Nevada foothills, crossing and recrossing the San Joaquin River and the Kings River. In this land between these 2 rivers, in this Fresno, I carry on. So this poem is called Momentum. And so when the CIA came to Laos, and began training the Hmong to fight the communists, they named the program called what is it called? Codename Momentum. So this poem is kind of playing with the idea of that name, Momentum. What is it called when the CIA has a program or something and they have a code name for it? Operation. It's called Operation Momentum. So, my Hmong brothers and sisters, I know sometimes you feel powerless, don't know what to do. You're stuck in place with nowhere to go. Then I want you to remember this word, momentum. Our parents and grandparents were stuck in the mountains of Laos, subsisting on daily labors, back-breaking each day in the fields, only to feed the family for the night. Day after day, month after month, year after year. Then the US and Thai governments saw us and said, look how strong, how enduring they are, yet so ignorant of the world. We'll use them as a sword to fight our war, as a shield to deflect our enemies' weapons, as a wall to halt our enemies' advance. We'll call this Operation Momentum. So we were conscripted, taught to read and write, trained to fight and fly, and we have been gaining momentum ever since. Like a rock rolling down a mountain slope, like a river surging towards the sea. And here we are, from illiterate mountain tribes people to nurses and doctors, teachers and superintendents, lawyers and legislators, builders and architects, actors and producers, and yes, poets and writers in the mere span of 50 years. That's momentum. So when you start, remember, you are momentum. We are momentum. Thank you so much.